Hello everyone, my name is Ross Hardie, and I proudly welcome you to the very first episode of my new series, Life Discussions with Ross Hardie. I really appreciate it very much that you have taken the time to tune in, and I hope that you will not be disappointed. Over the course of this series, I will be talking about many important topics and sharing many of my own personal life philosophies and how I believe that we can be the best that we can in many different situations. I'll also be talking about other important things to me such as equality, respect, and common sense. In this episode, I will be sharing about my problems with Asperger's syndrome, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, intrusive thoughts, how I overcame them all, thanks to taking small steps, and thanks to all the special people in my life. I will talk about many of my triumphs, as well as many of the other tough times I went through as well. So once again, I sincerely thank you all very much for tuning in. So to get started, here is my backstory. I was born in Penrith, New South Wales on March 1, 1990. I almost died after I was born due to being born severely underweight. My mother told me that during this time there was nobody else who was in and out of the hospital more than my grandfather, who I affectionately called my pa. So right from the start I already had a special bond with both my nan and my pa. When we moved to the Central Coast in New South Wales when I was 4, we moved into another double-storey house and my room was downstairs in the same area as my grandparents', which was the greatest thing I could have asked for. At the time, my nan was working at Radio Rentals in Gosford, which is an electronics rental shop, and my pa was working at Webster's Trucking Company in Blacktown, New South Wales, which is about 2 or 3 hours drive away from where we live. When my nan worked, she was able to come back to our house because she didn't have to travel that far away, but my pa, on the other hand, he had to stay in Blacktown with his other family up there, so he could get to work on time and not have to travel back home so much. So I understood this, but it tore my heart up so much. I started school when I was 6 years old in 1996, and I used to go to school crying just about every day because my pa would be gone throughout the week working. But thankfully he would come back home on the weekends. He'd come back with some nice fruit cake. He'd come back and we'd play cards, and we'd also play with these action figures that I have in which you have to twist them on a stand and knock the other one off, which he used to beat me at almost all the time. So, it was just so amazing when he'd come back, and, I just missed him so much every day. I had the best childhood that I could have possibly asked for, thanks to all the kindness and the amazing upbringing that I received from all my family, especially my grandparents. They are the biggest reason as to why I love life so much and why I had such an amazing childhood as well. Sadly, the first real tough test in life came when I was 9 years old, when my pa passed away. I'm sorry. Yeah, my pa passed away, and I was just absolutely devastated. I never fully recovered from it, and I never will. But obviously, I'll do my best to live a happy life and to be as strong as possible, like what he wanted. But yeah, it just absolutely devastated me, and I was only 9 years old, and I was just absolutely devastated every day. At that point, I didn't even care that I lived. In fact, a part of me even wanted to die just so that I could be with him again. But thankfully, again, thanks to the amazing support of my family, my mother, my nan, and my siblings, I did the best that I could, and we all had, many happy moments. Life was never the same, but thanks to them, I did the best that I could and continue to do so today. 2003 was my first year of high school, and like many others, I went through a lot of bullying and being picked on, but that didn't really affect me as much as what was going on the inside. I began to suffer a fixation and an obsession of dying, and I was just completely scared and upset about it every single day. In addition to this, I was also still crying about my pa every day as well. But yeah, the reason why that I was so scared about dying was because I just love life so much, and just the thought of it ending, it just really upset me. I mean, these days I accept it more and I take it better, but back then I just cried every day, whether I was at home, whether I was at school. I just could not shake it out of my head no matter how hard I tried. However, later on in 2003, two main things happened that helped me get through this and also helped me gain a lot of happiness. First of all, I met a young man by the name of Andrew who would become my best friend. We actually knew each other since primary school, but we didn't really become friends until high school, in which we just clicked, and he became like a brother to me. We had so many fun times, watching wrestling, playing video games, and just having a lot of fun and laughs. And also, I love his dad, Russell, very much as well, and they are just two of the best people in my life. And the other main thing that happened was I received a wonderful black cat by the name of Midnight. He was just the most beautiful boy I could have asked for. Unfortunately, he passed away the following year because he had an undetectable kidney condition that he was born with as a kitten, and that was really devastating as well. But he gave me so many happy moments, and it helped lift me and made me stronger, and I'll always love, remember, and miss him. Another notable moment for me in 2003 was when my stepdad Kane, who had been with my mother for the past 9 years, he pulled me aside one day when he was outside in the shed working, because I'd gotten into trouble at school for making fun of other people, even though these people would say things about me first. He told me that I could just ignore them, and that there was no need for me to stoop to their level and bring others down just to make myself feel better. And even though it took a couple of years to really get this message, when I finally did, it really helped make my school life as well as my general life a lot easier, because I was able to realize that people's words can only affect you negatively if you let them, and there's no need to be offended about what anybody says about you personally. So thankfully, I learnt that from him, and it helped make my life easier going forward. So thanks to this, the rest of my school years were not really too hard. I didn't have any real issues that I had to deal with. I had a lot of great times with my best friend Andrew, and I was going along quite well despite the fact that I was getting mediocre grades and I wasn't enjoying school, but nothing was really overly tough for me at that time. In 2007, the year after I graduated from year 10 in high school, I got my first job as a labourer, a tree picker, and a conservation land manager. It was a very physical job, but I worked as hard as I could. In fact, I was actually often told to have breaks, and I didn't have any days off until I was made to, because I got sick, while others around me were constantly making excuses as to why they wanted to have days off. Unfortunately, while at work, I was a witness of consistent harassment and discrimination against a young man named Daniel, who was one of the most polite and nicest guys that I'd met at that time. And the reason why they discriminated against him was simply because he was Jewish. And then they found out he had bipolar disorder as well, so they consistently tried to push him even more just to get a reaction out of him. And I only ever saw him have an outburst once, but I stuck up for him. I was his friend, and I stayed out of the way of everybody else, and of course I was an outcast as well by association. I was absolutely disgusted and appalled by this behaviour, and I went to report it to management, but unfortunately they swept it under the rug and didn't do anything. So unfortunately, my work life there was not amazing at all, and I was only hired for 6 months as well, so I had to find work shortly afterwards anyway. However, things would get worse for me, as unfortunately I began to suffer from the problems that would take over my life, that would render me unable to function normally as a human being without depending on others, and that would render me unable to do things such as drive a car, and such as get further work or study. Now, I was born with Asperger's syndrome, which is a part of the autistic spectrum disorder for those who don't know. And when I began to get these uncontrollable, negative, disgusting, and disturbing things that would enter my head, I became really scared, and I became upset every day, and I wanted to know why this was happening to me. So I did a little bit of research, and even though I was only born with borderline Asperger's, which means that obviously it's not as bad as full Asperger's or autistic sufferers, I found out that it's still possible to get other problems in life from being born with this condition. Now, autistic sufferers suffer from things such as lack of social skills, repetitive behavior, lack of awareness, and also a fixation on doing repetitive things. The only time that I had ever shown any symptoms in my life in regards to this was when I was an infant, and I used to have a fixation on staring at our cow patch rug, but obviously I'm too young to remember that. Growing up, I never had any issues with talking to people or being social, unless, of course, they were really poorly behaved people or just unpleasant to be around. But certainly no serious issues until I was in my teens. But unfortunately, when those problems came, they really hit me hard, and I didn't know what to do to handle them. So the first main notable thing I began to suffer from was a condition called intrusive thoughts. And what intrusive thoughts is, it's very much like, to me, it's like a silent version of Tourette's syndrome. And for those who don't know what Tourette's is, it's where someone says negative or disgusting things about someone or something without any control whatsoever. Now, they are not saying what they really think or feel, but the condition is so powerful that it makes them say hateful and disgusting things without their control. And this condition that I went through was very similar. It made me think that I was thinking or saying bad things about people that I love, and that absolutely devastated me every single day. So what I would do to combat this was, obviously, I would go the opposite route. I would have to consistently try to fill my head with loving things and remind myself that I love my friends, I love my family. But unfortunately, this was way easier said than done, because even in the midst of saying these things, and I know that I never said or thought anything hateful, but this condition made me think that I did. And that was the main problem. And this is where the obsessive compulsive disorder stemmed from, because I'd be at a constant battle with myself every single day, trying to say loving things, trying to say kind things, to get these negative and get these hateful things that weren't really my thoughts, but they would still enter my head anyway, to get all of these out, and to remind myself every day that, yes, I do love my family, yes, I do love my friends, and I do not think anything hateful about anyone or anything. And yeah, I mean, this was just a constant battle that I had to go through every single day, and it caused me to have a mental breakdown. And then I had to go to the psychiatrist and get medication, which didn't help much at all, because it would often add to the jumbles of my mind that I had to go through every day. And unfortunately, things just got harder and sadder for me. Sadly, I became unable to do anything in one go without having to start or stop in the midst to recover myself. Because the way the OCD had control over me and the intrusive thoughts had control over me, if I didn't do something thinking the wonderful and kind things that I wanted to, and getting rid of the negative and hateful things, it would just not let me move on. And if I tried to push on sooner, then I would get the worst stomach ache in the world. I would feel so guilty, and I would have to go back to that same spot or do the same thing that I was about to do, and I would have to clearly hear myself say or think inside my head the kind and wonderful things that I wanted to say, and if I didn't, then I would have to stay there until I could. Now, sometimes this would take hours, and sometimes it would happen while I was out and about as well. For instance, I could not walk down the street in one go without stopping. What should take 20 minutes sometimes took me 2 hours just to walk down the street. I couldn't do anything else around the house without having to stop in the middle of it as well. And I got so upset that I began to punch the wall. I began to hit myself in the head as hard as I could, in the hopes that my mind would somehow function better. And on one particular sad day, I even took 3 sleeping tablets at the same time, because I wanted to fall asleep, because I was in so much pain every day and I was just tired of it, and I just wanted the pain to stop, and I didn't know what to do. But I was hoping to knock myself out, and it didn't happen. But yeah, it was just absolutely devastating. And then I began to suffer from one of the classic symptoms for Asperger's sufferers, which is mutism. I was unable to speak many words. I only spoke about 3 words a day between the ages of 18 to 21, and it upset me, it upset my family. But the reason why I didn't talk was because of all the things that my condition made me think that I was thinking. I found it easier to not say anything at all, because, as strange as this might sound, even if I spoke out loud and obviously I didn't say anything bad, my condition made me think that I still did. And so I found that the easiest thing to do was just to not say anything at all, and I'll always feel so sorry for putting my family through that. And I got suicidal. I just decided that it would be best if I didn't live anymore, because my life was going nowhere. I was unable to function normally, and I didn't think that I would ever make something of myself in life anymore. So I really wanted to die so that the pain could stop. But in the midst of this, there were 2 main things that kept me going and made me want to live on. The first thing was that I still wanted to be there for my nan more than anything. I mean, I wanted to be there for all of my family as well, but especially my nan, because, my nan and pa are obviously the most important people to me in the world, and I didn't want to leave her behind. And the other main thing that kept me going was that I wanted to have a chance to somehow, some way, meet my favourite actress in the world, Eva Longoria. She was one of the main reasons why I had any happiness during this period. Watching Desperate Housewives and many of her amazing films with my nan at night time were some of the few times that I actually got peace and happiness during this time. In late 2011, going into 2012, was when I was learning to talk again. And I still remember to this day just how happy my family and friends were to see that I was slowly but surely getting to function normally again. And it was such an amazing feeling to finally be able to talk normally without having to stop. Now, for the first few months, I did develop a stuttering problem, and there were certain words that I struggled to say for some reason, particularly words of B's and P's. Now, the reason for this was because my mind still had me thinking that I was accidentally saying bad things, but the thing is that I got better and better at recognizing that no, I wasn't saying anything bad. So I just took my time, I eased back into normal conversation again, and now it's been going better than ever. Now, it was actually 2 years prior to this, but in the midst of 2011, 2012 was when I got to do this more often. I met up with an amazing group of people at a mixed martial arts group called Kyoshi MMA, and I met some amazing friends there. They helped me become a better person. They helped me become a better man, and I'll always appreciate everything that they did for me. I took on some volunteer roles, working at the cage door to let fighters in, cleaning the cage, helping assembling the cage, and all those things just helped me out so much and helped me believe in myself and helped me see that yes, I could definitely do hard work still. And it was an absolutely amazing experience, and I'll always be forever thankful and grateful for each and every one of the people there at Kyoshi MMA. In 2013, a few months before my nan passed away, I had a heart-to-heart conversation with her in which I promised her that I would somehow, some way, do my best to make something of myself, live my own independent life, get my own car, get my own house, and get my own career. And my nan told me that no matter what, if I succeeded or failed at that, she said that she would always be proud of me and always love me, and she said that she would support me no matter what I do, and she told me that she loved me very much. I remember it was such an emotional conversation, and I actually cried of happiness, which was one of the few times in my life I'd ever done that before. And then later on in 2013, I succeeded in getting my L's, my learner's license, and it was an amazing feeling because nobody thought I would ever be able to do that. Now, unfortunately, I did not start driving until 2016. I was still not ready to drive like I thought I was. However, at least I showed that I was still capable of progressing, and thankfully my driving has been going great ever since. 4 days later, after I got my L's, my nan sadly passed away. I looked after her all night on the final night that she was alive, and I was also the last person that she saw when she was awake. When I spoke at her funeral, I said, and I used to say this to her all the time, I said, Nan, you and Pa are the single biggest reason why I'm glad that I was born, and why I'm glad that I was born as me. Because if I wasn't, then I wouldn't have been blessed with the greatest people and the greatest grandparents I could have ever asked for. I love you both very, very much. I love you more than absolutely anything or anyone else in the world. I'm sorry, everybody. I just get really emotional when I talk about my nan and pa because, yeah, I love them with all my heart and soul. And, yeah, they're the greatest people that I could have ever asked for, as I said. I'll always love them every day. And, my nan, she used to say to me, please don't feel sad when I'm gone. And I said, I will, Nan, but I will do my absolute best to be as strong and to live the happy life and to live the independent life that I want to and to live the happy life that I know you want me to. And I'll always try my best for you. I'll always appreciate all the times that Nan stood by me when I was going through my toughest times, all the times that we watched our favourite Eva Longoria together, and all the times that we watched my favourite sport in the world, tennis, together. I love and miss you with all my heart every day, Nan. Thankfully, in March 2014, my biggest dream came true. I actually got to meet Eva Longoria in Sydney when she came to Australia. She picked me to meet her on Twitter because I wrote her a sign and tweeted it to her, and she saw it and she asked if I'd like to meet, and of course the rest is history. I take a lot of pride in the fact that I didn't have to spam the same thing over and over. I didn't have to beg for attention, and the fact that I waited her to ask to meet me as well, because I felt that that was just polite and common courtesy, especially with her busy schedule. I felt that it was the best thing to do, and I think that's why she respected me so much. And, I was able to talk to her about so many amazing things, about the love of my grandparents, about what she meant to me and what she meant to my nan as well, and the fact that I had hopes and dreams for myself in the future, and how appreciative I was for what she did for me because, again, it helps me become a better person and a better man. I told Eva that I believed that she was the most beautiful woman in the entire world and that she was the most talented actress in the world as well. And these were things that I used to talk about with my nan almost every night. So to be able to tell Eva that in person, it's just one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in my life. And then we were able to meet again in 2015, on Skype in 2016, and then earlier this year when she came to Sydney to film Dora the Explorer. And I was also able to meet up with her amazing husband Pepe. Both Eva and Pepe are two of the kindest, most amazing, and most phenomenal human beings that anybody could ever hope to meet. Eva and Pepe, if you're listening to this, I'm so thankful for what you've done for me. You've given me so much happiness in my life, and if I hadn't met you, I wouldn't have this happiness. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for me, and I always will appreciate it with all my heart. And it is the absolute biggest dream come true to be able to call you both my friends. I hope that you're always safe, happy, and healthy, and I hope that everything is always well for both of you and all of your family and friends. In 2016, I successfully completed my TAFE course in Screen and Media, doing Cert 4 the previous year and then graduating diploma in that year. It was one of the most amazing experiences and times of my life. I met so many amazing teachers and a lot of great students as well. We all got along so well, and again, they all added to help make me a better person, and I will always appreciate everything that they did for me. It was also around this time in which I met my amazing friends at tennis. I decided to start playing tennis because of how much I love it, and again, they've just given me so much happiness. They've given me so many amazing memories, and I'll always appreciate everything that each and every one of them have done for me too. Throughout the last few months of 2016, I was actually seeing a new psychologist, and she gave me this different type of medication that worked quite a lot better than the previous medication that I was taking, which didn't help at all. However, this medication made me feel really drowsy because it was quite powerful. So I knew right there and then that I would have to work my way over this eventually, especially because I was learning to drive and I could not get drowsy before going behind the wheel, because otherwise that would be a danger to myself and a danger to other people as well. So I took it every 2 to 3 days, depending on how I felt. And then my New Year's resolution for 2017 was to see if I could go without taking any medication at all. And long behold, ever since October 2016, when I stopped taking it for good, I have not had to take any medication since, and I have not had to stop in the middle of doing things because of OCD anymore. It is an absolute miracle that I was able to overcome all this, but I couldn't have done it without the amazing support of so many amazing people and so many amazing friends and family, and also just, deciding not to give up, and thankfully life did get better. It makes me so happy that I can now live as a normal functioning human being again without having to worry about stopping in the middle of doing things and without having to worry about being drugged up on medication all the time. Now, for those people that are listening and are taking medication, if it helps you, please by all means keep taking it. But if you're like me and you're able to work your way off it, you can also try that as well. But you got to do what's best for you. I mean, medication works for some people and it doesn't work for others. So just keep that in mind. But don't think that you're worthless or any less of a person because you have to take medication. Just keep believing, keep fighting, and keep doing the best that you can, and life can get better for you. After 2 failed attempts to get into university, as well as of having about probably 20 plus part-time job offers declined, I'm now pursuing a career in radio, which I've recently found a passion for. My goal is to get into the Australian Film, TV and Radio School, also known as AFTIS, in Sydney. Now this will be 2.5 hours away from me, and then of course another 2.5 hours back, but I know that I can make this work, and I know that the long trips will be nothing compared to the pain that I've previously felt in my life. So if I'm willing to continue to work hard and push as hard as I can and be the best that I can be, I know that I can make this happen. In the meantime, I'm currently working on community radio at Coast FM 963 in Gosford to get the experience that I need to get into AFTIS, and I will also be doing a journalist course in Ultimo TAFE in Sydney to complete the rest of the experience that I need to get into AFTIS. When I went to the AFTIS Open Day recently, I ended up walking for 5 hours throughout the day because I stayed in Sydney for a couple of extra hours, and then because my car was unavailable to drive from the nearest train station, and there were no buses at the nearest time as well, I decided to walk home, which was another 3 hours. And in the midst of that walk home, I actually looked at the sky, I raised my arms, and I was just so happy because it just makes me feel so good that I can walk longer now and not even have to stop a single time. Now, even though it's already been 2 years since I had to do anything like that, it still makes me feel so amazing to know that I can function normally, I can do anything I want now without having to stop in the middle. It's just one of the best feelings I could have ever hoped for. So financially, obviously things are tough for me because of all the years that I've gone without being able to get work. However, I'm working towards my first career and I'm very, very confident that I can make it happen, and I'm certainly never going to give up. And I appreciate each and every one of you for all of your amazing kindness and all of your amazing support. And a huge thank you to all of my overseas friends who I've known for 7 years. You guys have given me so much happiness through talking about games and other important things. You've done so much for me that you probably will never truly realize. But thank you for everything you've done, and I hope you're always safe, happy, and healthy. Take care, everybody.